Well, let's just say that it's been very, very wet, and that has certainly not done much for the deer farmers, but I have caught up and found out how their season has been going.
Well, the season was dry summer, very dry summer. Great spring, great early summer, grass for Africa, exceptionally dry late summer, and then the drought broke with a vengeance, and we've had a third of our annual rainfall in 3 weeks. So that's done a lot of damage to the farm, and you know, that's life, that's the way it goes. But we've got the rain, and there'll be ground moisture for the spring, which is good.
How have the deer come through?
The deer have come through surprisingly well. We thought that the continual rain and cold was going to, you know, knock them around a bit, and perhaps the weaners will know when we weigh them next week whether they've taken a little bit of a check. But they're getting fed plenty of silage, and the weaners are getting their peas, and so they look very, very well. So hopefully they're cruising through.
Winter nutrition, obviously vital.
Vitally important, and it starts with the drought, and it goes unchecked right through the winter. And you know, you've got to get that right. You absolutely do.
Must, with all due respect, be quite expensive to feed peas and silage and whatever.
It's expensive if you have to buy in standing grass, which we were forced to the year we came. But if you're making your own, it's the most economic feed you can have. But the peas are expensive. They're more expensive than barley, but it's a better food. But you restrict your peas to your weaners and your yearling stags.
Because that's where the growth's needed.
And young growing stock, yeah. The hinds don't get it, they just get the silage.
I want to talk about your hinds. It's heaven for them, isn't it, Bangor?
It is, because especially in the winter, because we take advantage of the oak plantations, and they spend most of the winter in there. And although there's no leaf on the trees, it's still very, very sheltered in there. And there's billions of acorns, and they get fed their silage in there, and they're puddings at the moment, and which is always a worry for calving. But we didn't have any real calving problems last year, so it works well, and they're looking good.
How important is it to keep that plane of nutrition for the hinds?
We have to be careful that they don't get too fat. Bangor is flat country, whereas before we had big hill country, and the hinds are always fit, and we never had problems. But flat country's always an issue in terms of fitness and calving. But fortunately, the South Island springs are later, obviously, than, say, the Waikato. So they're not getting access to, you know, all that green feed, you know, from late August, early September on. It's a month behind, so that helps.
You'll be pleased with venison prices and velvet prices?
We've had a great velvet season. It's just been wonderful to see that bouncing back. And in spite of the global recession and economic issues internationally, the venison has held up very, very well. And so, you know, the industry's in really good heart right now.
Tell me about the velvet, because it seems to be coming back into vogue worldwide, and you guys are producing more and more of it.
No, we're producing less and less, and I think that's part of the...
Per animal, I'm talking about.
Well, per animal, definitely. I mean, that's one of the issues, although one of the key attributes, rather, of the industry today is that 10 years ago, the average velvet yield per animal was about 2.2 kilos. Today, it's just under 4 kilos. So at $100 a kilogram, that's, you know, say $400 a stag, two and a half to the acre, you're talking $800 to $1,000 an acre. And so your intensive work period through October to December, tailing off December, and then your regrowth, the rest of the year you're not doing anything with them except feeding them and moving them around the farm and you know, as far as handling is concerned and workload. So you know, they're an economic animal to farm labour-wise, except for an intensive period through the year, and they are very profitable to farm, very profitable.
But overall, the demand is still a bit low, you think?
Well, $100 to $120 a kilogram, I wouldn't have thought so. I think that perhaps it would be fair to say that the balance is about right, and which is good. And hopefully, as the global economic situation picks up, that the take-up will increase, and we can quietly increase again with it.
And obviously that the meat industry is in good heart.
Venison's remarkable, considering it is a luxury item, it's an expensive item, and Europe is not in the greatest shape right now. Again, it's a combination of the industry's programs and the strategies and the direction where we're putting the venison, and and backing it up with marketing, and also an easing off of supply is just working out quite nicely. It's fitting the market situation right now.
On a personal note, you've got a couple of new stags. Your genetics is still a very, very important thing.
Vital. I mean, we've got 2 new stags we're AIing with from Woburn Abbey this year, and we've got 2 on the go from Warnham for next year. So new blood, very exciting. We're very pleased to get access to it, and long may it continue.
Because that's because of you're looking at your heads as well as your meat and your overall across the board.
Absolutely, and you know, new blood is important, not for the sake of new blood, but for the attributes that those animals bring, and you know, we can never have enough of it.
How intensive is your breeding program? Because obviously you seem to be putting the right stag to the right hind and doing it successfully.
Well, you know, not every combination works. The secret is that the majority work, and you learn by your mistakes. And when you introduce a new stag, you know, it's important to try and gauge what is the fit to that stag, what are the attributes that that stag has. Is he very powerful in the antler but not as many points and needs a multi-point gene hind base to mate to? Or has he got a lot of points and needs length or span and spread? It's a building block process. There's no one stag that has it all. You've simply got to put in attributes into attributes into attributes and build and build and build, because genetics always give on one hand but take away on the other.
Your culling program must make your eyes water at times, because you've taken some pretty big stags out.
Rigorous. So there's only one way to cull and move ahead, and you have to be ruthless, and sometimes that's heartbreaking.
How's the world safari scene?
Talking to the safari operators that I know, this year has been, for some, a very good year, for others, a very soft year. It's been mixed. Overall, I think interest is probably down, and that's understandable because the majority of our market tends to be from the United States. But as I say, there are those who have done very well this year, who have perhaps a wider you know, market in terms of their customer base, and work very hard at it, and are holding up pretty well.
You'll be thrilled there's a code of practice in place for these safaris?
I think the safari industry actually has done very well in terms of its code of conducts for the safari business. At the end of the day, safari is an industry that hunts in very large, but they are enclosed areas. And so you're under international scrutiny, and therefore you've got to do it right. And so the fact that there is a code of practice, and an ethical code of practice, in other words, I think is a very positive step by the safari industry. 3,000
acres is a pretty big encampment.
Well, they're all sorts of different sizes and all sorts of different terrain. I mean, 800 acres of solid native bush in the North Island, or 5,000 acres of tussock and you know, 3,000 to 5,000 feet in the South Island. It's hard work. It's hard work.
And it's to say that the deer don't always lose.